Hello, I'm Mctune, and it's Tuesday night. But I'm busy at the moment, so I have a debate that's been sitting on my hard drive for about a year. And it went out on a very small channel, and very few people have seen it. So I bring it to you now. I do have something later tonight, but at the moment, 8 o'clock Central Time, I am predisposed. This is a debate on the Echo Chamber podcast, which was on D Live and Facebook and has since gone silent. Um, it is against a guy that it was introduced to me as Eugene, but just as we're coming into the debate, I found out it was Nigel Kofta. I did not recognize his name, but after the debate, I looked it up and discovered that he's kind of a friend of the Fuhrer, if you know what I mean. The kind of guy that might be in a favor of the losing side in World War II. That's the kind of guy Nigel Kofta is. I didn't know that. It didn't come up. Fortunately, I would have gone off on him. But that's who he is. If you look him up, look out. So anyway, this is the video. There's a few things that I will overlay in my edits of the video. It's about an hour, maybe a little less. Enjoy that. Be sure to check in later tonight, as hopefully I have Scotty Storm, the return of Scotty Storm. So here it is. Enjoy my debate on the Echo Chamber with Nigel Kofta.
And we are live. Hello again. This is Echo Chamber Podcast, Season 2, Episode 3. And I am so happy. And I know all of you are so happy. So let's just have a great night together, because this is something that we've been working on for a while. And it finally got to happen. Season 2, Episode 3, the Flat Earth Debate. I have two great gentlemen who are on the line with us now, and they are going to be discussing the question, is the Earth round or flat? So guys, no matter where you're watching, whether this is Facebook, whether it's Bitwave, or if you're on D Live, make sure to hit the follow every Friday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We try to bring you another debate to help break your echo chamber. Right out the gate, I want to let you know that on Echo Chamber, Super Chats are as free as speech should be, so no charge. At a point in the program, we're going to be taking questions from the audience, so you can load that as soon as you want, and I'll be watching the background while our gentlemen debate to get your questions together. So let's introduce our guests. We have Mr. Nigel Kofta, who is taking the flat earth perspective. And we also have, we're very humbled to have Mctune taking the round earth perspective, and he has some platforms that you're really going to want to watch, so make sure you check it out. There's links to my right, but I want to show you youtube.com/Mctune. He's also got a great Discord channel with the link below, where there's a lot of great content, a lot of great debates from not just flat earthers, but also concave and just anything about this subject. You're going to want to be watching his channel. So I'm very, very glad that we're discussing it, discussing this issue together. Nigel, how are you, man? Thanks for joining us.
I am good. How are you?
I am very good, brother. Well. Thank you for joining us. And MC, thanks for taking the time. Really glad that you're here.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. All right, guys. So just for those of you who know the program, I'm just going to go through the itinerary, if you will. On Echo Chamber, one guest goes up to 10 minutes, and then the other guest goes for 10 minutes. At that point, they can repeat, they can respond up to 10 minutes. Both guests can wave if they feel like they've said all that they need to say. After that, each guest can ask the other guest up to 3 questions. Because you guys saw what's happened in previous episodes, we have a 2-minute time response limit for the responses. And at that point, we just end the night with questions from the audience. So at this point, Nigel, you were going to go first. So at this point, you have 10 minutes to say whatever you want, and then we'll move on to the program. So Nigel, the floor is yours, my friend. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Nigel, as you can tell. I am a pro-flat earther, anti-globalist, anti-5G, and many other things that could be pertinent, but we'll start there. And my position is this. My position is that the flat earth as a model, as a projection, could have many uses, but the uses are being overshadowed by a lot of people who see flat Earth and then they just get absolutely, they feel the need to just deny that the Earth is flat. So that's kind of where my starting premise is. And as far as anti-globalism, just globalism in all forms. And I think these two things are interlinked. So the round Earth, the globe Earth theory, and perception of the world tends itself to this globalist world order. And the way I see that happening is very much like in the movies. You have, there's a lot of talk about, what do you call it, colonizing planets and whatnot. And I think this is a very dangerous world view that we are accepting as a whole. And so as being pro-flat Earth, I think that we should be more conscious about the world or the Earth as being something that we cannot escape from. I don't know how to really put it in any other more finer terms than that, but
yeah, Nigel. Go ahead.
Essentially, what I'm saying is that each one of these two views of the world we live on, they lead themselves consequentially in two different directions. And so my concern is what direction I want to go forward. Humanity as a whole. And so that's my prerogative. Looking at where each one perceptions will lead. And
now, Nigel, I am going to step in for a second and ask you to speak a little bit closer into the mic. Keep going.
Okay. I don't know what you heard or what you didn't, but yeah, I'm pro flat Earth and anti-globalism, and those are my two main things that I'm about. Because the flat Earth, in the flat Earth model, the world is like a snow globe, right? And so that means we're in an enclosed system, which we even as a spinning ball, we are technically a closed ecosystem as well. But the globe system and the globe world view, there's always this idea that we can colonize other planets. And I'm not so concerned about evidence. I'm more concerned about the moral argument. I'm morally a flat earther and morally anti-globe.
All right.
But on the flip side, I'm pro-flat earther in that the flat Earth projection can be used for science, for tracking weather, tracking tides, all these other things, just as any other projection can be. So there is a utilitarian purpose to looking at the Earth as flat. And I think that's enough about where I'm at right now.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Nigel. So at this point, MC Tool is going to begin his discussion. So he has until 9:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So at that point, our guests can talk to each other. Now, remember, guys, that an echo chamber of the super chats are as free as speech should be. So make sure to get your questions in, because there will be a point for you to ask whatever question you want to ask to any of our panelists. So MC Tool, the floor is yours for 10 minutes. Go ahead.
MC Tune, not MC Tool, but that's okay. I've been called worse. All right. Well, the Earth is a physical thing. It's not magical. It's it's measurable, and it's not, the shape of the Earth isn't moral or immoral. It's just what it is. So when people when they only traveled short distances, flat maps worked. But as humans moved into long-range travel, flat maps failed and better maps were developed. Since the early days, the Earth has been explored. All continents and the small islands, except for maybe Gilligan's Island, have been discovered and placed on maps. And these maps are spherical-based maps. The coordinate system used on the Earth is a latitude and longitude, which is a spherical coordinate system. Lines of latitude are parallel, and lines of longitude vary in distance with the sine and cosine function. This is unlike a two-dimensional Cartesian coordinate system where lines are parallel in both dimensions, right? The paper maps, I got some up here on the wall here. The paper maps were often used, are projections from a spherical source, like air charts on the wall here. They're usually Lambert conformal conic projections, and sea maps usually use a Mercator projection. But projections introduce distortions, which navigators are trained to correct for. When planning long-distance routes, the navigators must perform spherical trigonometry calculations to get the correct distances between points. For example, on slide 0 there, you'll see the Haversine formula calculates the distance between 2 points of latitude and longitude. If the Earth were flat, this formula would fail because it's spherical. And every time long-distance travel, they wouldn't be able to accurately know the distances. It would be impossible to predict the amount of time a route would take. Shipments would be late. It would be impossible to accurately predict the amount of fuel needed for an airplane flight, and planes would run out of fuel mid-flight. People would notice them missing. Long-range international travel has been successfully accomplished for well over 100 years. The globe map is undeniably successful. So if the Earth is flat, the globe map cannot be used. It's way too spherical. The correct flat map must be used instead. And what have flat earthers provided? Well, most often they use the Gleason map, and it's called the azimuthal equidistant map. It puts the North Pole in the center and Antarctica as a ring around the outside. But this map doesn't work. Not even close. Nothing is right. Distances are way off. The shapes of continents are drastically wrong. I don't know if Eugene thinks this map is correct, but when tested, it fails every time. So unless Eugene brings it up, I won't be addressing this map. There are several other maps that flat earthers have also proposed, and they all fail as well. So this alone ends the actual debate. The globe map works. No flat earth map ever does. But, for entertainment and education, I'll press on anyway. I will do now what no flat earther has ever had the courage to do. I will attempt to create a flat earth map. Then we can determine if it makes sense. So I will use information that's well known and easily verifiable, and for which there is no argument from any flat earther I have ever seen. The angle of sunrise and sunset. So this is useful as the horizontal angle of the sun is not modified by refraction gradients. So on the day of the equinox, the geometric center of the Earth, or the sun, rises due east and sets due west everywhere. This can be looked up on suncalc.org, timeanddate.com, or many other sources. Nobody has ever disputed this. Maybe some people disagree, and, I anxiously await the evidence to the contrary. You could just call up flat earthers around the globe and ask them to measure the sunrise and sunset angles. Be sure to send along any discrepancies. So it's important to also remember that on the equinox, the sun also rises at the same time everywhere along a line of longitude. Again, it's well documented and not disputed. So as you can see on slide 1, I'm going to take a sample line of longitude, which is 20 degrees east. I chose this because it has the longest stretch of north-south land, from Legolas in South Africa all the way to the northern fjords of Norway. Flat earthers don't even need a ship to confirm the accuracy of the sunrise angle. Then on slide 2, we see the sunrise angle as seen on the equator, due east, no surprise. On slide 3, I added in the sunrise angle as seen from Central Europe. On slide 4, I have the sunrise angle from a bunch of different locations. Now, clearly, this flat map attempt doesn't fit the factual observation. There aren't an array of suns we would have noticed, but we can make it work. All we need to do is arrange the line of longitude so all the sunrise angles converge on one sun at the same time. This requires that the line of longitude be curved. So on slide 5, I solved this problem. So there you have it. This is the flat Earth map for 20 degrees east that works. It works for the sunrise angle on the equinox. There is no other possible flat Earth map that satisfies this one simple, non-disputed, and easily verifiable fact: the sunrise angle on the equinox. So to consider the sunset angle for the same location is easy enough. Slide 6 shows this. The Earth must curve the opposite direction. So there you have it. Slide 7 shows how the flat Earth must be arranged for 20 degrees east, as determined by just 2 pieces of data on one day. It's quite obvious that the flat Earth must constantly shift and morph throughout the day to match sunrise and sunset angles on the equinox. This observation can then be extended for all lines of longitude for the equinox to show that the entire Earth must shift and morph constantly to match. I suppose Eugene may have some other claims about the sun or something else to try to hand wave this away. For example, some flat earthers claim the sun is a hologram, or maybe that its position is not able to be ascertained correctly. Certainly, any such claims will be backed up with evidence instead of baseless assertions. So we're left with an obvious question. Is this reasonable? Does the surface of the Earth dramatically shift and morph throughout 12 hours? Just so that the sunrise and sunset can make sense on the equinox? Or does it make more sense that the globe, which already accurately predicts this, without inexplicable dynamic morphing around ground? Well, I'll leave that judgment to the audience to determine whether or not they think that makes sense at all. So there you go. Thank you very much. That's my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mctune. So now, Eugene, Nigel, you've got up to 10 minutes to respond in any way that you want. So Eugene, until 9:56 p.m., the mic is yours. Go ahead, my friend.
All right. So that was a very good presentation, I have to say, Mr. Tune. But my argument is this, and I'll reiterate it, is that I'm a pro-flat earther, and that I am for the flat earth model. Okay. I sent you the Mercator projection.
Yes.
So let's take a look at the Mercator projection. The Mercator projection, as you said, you do have to, because I've navigated at sea, I've navigated on land, and we have used these types of maps. And you do have to do calculations, because the way the Mercator projection works is it's distorted. I mean, Antarctica takes over the whole bottom. And as you get further away, distances are adjusted, right? But the Mercator projection projects the Earth as a cylinder, yet no one is arguing against the Earth being a cylinder, right? So, because it's only a projection of the Earth, it's only a model. And that's what I'm saying. The flat Earth is also a model. So if you look at the Gleason's map, which I'm glad you brought up, and I know you're very familiar with. However, the Gleason's map does have a few unique benefits to it, that if you look at it, it is basically a massive sundial where you can predict equinoxes and seasons, and the sun can be tracked with it. Actually, that I believe that that is the purpose of the Gleason's map is to be able to track astronomy and to track the seasons. So in an observatory purpose, the Gleason's map can be pretty useful in tracking where the stars will be at a certain time of the year. And that is my argument, is that the flat Earth map is a projection that has purpose. It has a utility that can be used for scientific purposes. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with earth.nullschool.net, where you can track temperature, wind, current of the ocean, and there's a number of different projections of the Earth. Some of them are quite ridiculous looking. It does include the Mercator, include some others. The argument that I'm proposing is that the flat Earth projection, as it looks on the Gleason's map, should not be overlooked in scientific research and for observatory purposes, and tracking, like I said, the stars or the seasons. And one thing that is very similar is a sundial. You can use put a sundial out and make a clock, a very rudimentary clock. And so that is my pro-flat Earth argument, and that's the position I'm taking on the flat Earth, is that when you bring up flat Earth, people want to debunk you as a fool or as an idiot or as misguided, but that's detracting from the ability to look at it as something that we can use for research. And my other argument is a philosophical, moral one, which is, as I said, if flat Earth, my argument really is anti-globalist Earth, because this notion that, oh, if we pollute all of our water, we can just tap it from some moon or planet or asteroid, which to me, that isn't sustainable, nor is it beneficiary. It's actually destructive, because it puts people in the mind that Earth is disposable and that it's temporary and that we can just go and get resources or we can colonize somewhere else. So that's why I believe where we're going with scientific development, that's where we're going, and it's destructive, and I don't see it as being something that we should be really celebrating, but rather we should be looking at saying we need to focus more on how to make Earth more sustainable, how we can exist on Earth in this petri dish. And I say petri dish also in a sense that it's a closed environment. You can't argue that Earth is not a closed environment, because it is. Whether you believe it's round or flat, it's a closed environment. And we need to start thinking of it as such, instead of this wishful, fantastical thinking that we're going to go colonize planets and mine asteroids, which would require a global government, because no nation is strong enough to be able to build everything required to colonize. Maybe China is probably the closest thing to being able to do that, just sheer labor and resources. But in order to achieve this colonization and mining asteroids project that we are heading towards, it would require a one world government, essentially. And as an anti-globalist, I take issue with that, because I do not want to be ruled by some Chinese oligarchs or something, or big tech. And that is where this is leading us.
All right, well, thank you very much, Nigel. So at this point, Mctune can go until 10:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, guys, we're going to get into your questions, the question portion of the show. So, MC, the mic's yours.
Thank you, Roger. Well, Nigel didn't
actually address any of my evidence. It's kind of sad. I'm going to put some work into that. But all right. Well, I'm glad you accept it tacitly, I guess. So again, you spent a lot of time about like the moral aspect of it, Nigel, and again, morals don't set the shape of the earth. The earth is the shape that it is, regardless of somebody's wishes or dreams or morals about it. It's explorable and testable and physical. We can go and find out the shape of it. We have. So you did also mention that that different flat Earth projections have utility, and that's absolutely true. On my wall here, I have a flat projection, several of them taped together. They're aeronautical charts. And they're very useful for plotting out courses for where you might fly. But because they're projection and there's a distortion introduced to it, the navigators need to know how to deal with it. And they do. But that doesn't make it flat. In fact, it because it's from a projection, that is also acknowledging that it's not flat. Because a flat map of a flat surface is not a projection, it's just flat. There's no distortions introduced by it. So yeah, the Mercator projection is a cylinder. It leaves the top and bottom undefined. It's not a flat Earth map. It's a cylindrical map. There's no distortions introduced. Doesn't really fit. But it too has its function, but not for knowing the shape of the Earth. The Gleason map. It does have a purpose. Its main stated purpose is for time zones. When he created it, there weren't quite maybe the time zones that we have now, but it's specifically accurate to the time offsets for where the sun is at the different points of the day. Of course, things like China having one gigantic time zone, same as India. It's not perfect for that. But in no part of the Gleason map is it useful for astronomy. It mentions nothing about the stars. So I don't know how that could be useful there. As for the seasons, the Gleason map does briefly mention seasons and where the sun is at different times of the year, whether it's over the Tropic of Cancer or Tropic of Capricorn. But it doesn't do much for you there. That's not its purpose. So now, as far as should we feel free to pollute the Earth so that we know that we can go somewhere else to get more water or to move somewhere else? Should we not take care of the Earth well enough? Well, yeah, I agree. That's a horrible idea to just pollute the things, knowing that we can go elsewhere. That's I don't think anybody is actually suggesting that we do that. I think people are saying, I want to go to Mars because I want to go to Mars and it'll be cool and it'll be interesting and it's exploration and it's expanding science, but not because, hey, let's piss on our planet and ruin it so that we can go to Mars. Not at all. I haven't seen people saying that. So I don't know why that is an issue. I don't think that a global government is necessary for that, and I don't think a global government would be the way to go either. But this isn't a political discussion. This is a scientific discussion. What is the shape of the Earth? It's been explored and measured. It cannot be flat, unless you think that the Earth shifts and morphs underneath you throughout the day. Nobody's noticed that yet. But then the Earth cannot be flat. That the idea doesn't work at all. So that is, I guess that responds to both his response and his initial presentation. So
well,
that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you both very much. So, guys, remember, on Echo Chamber, the Super Chats are as free as speech should be, so make sure to get your questions in. Thank you guys so much for submitting your questions already. And thank you both to Nigel and to Mctune for taking the time to discuss this issue. So at this point, now we're going to shift, and we're going to go into the question portion of the program, where each guest is going to be able to ask up to 3 questions to the other guest. And there's a 2-minute time limit for responses. And then we're just going to end the night with all 3 questions. So, guys, make sure to get your questions in. Remember, no charge for Super Chats. But if you enjoyed the program, you think it's interesting, and you'd like to see more debates, whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're watching on DLive or Bitwave, make sure to give us a like and follow. We're every Friday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We try to break your echo chamber and give you another debate. So, Nigel, the floor is going to be yours, up to 3 questions. And MC, you can take up to 2 minutes to answer, and then we'll switch, and then we'll leave it up to the audience. So, Nigel, the floor is yours, my friend. Go ahead for your first question.
Well, I just want to address what I was saying was misrepresented by Mr. Tune about saying that people are using pollution as an excuse to go somewhere else. I'm saying that is a consequence of there being this idea of that we can just go to other planets. But we're like, oh, when this planet gets destroyed and becomes a barren Earth, then we can just go.
This is not the fun part of my job, but this section does have to be a question. So if you could phrase that in a question, go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I could ask. Okay, Mr. Toon, do you think that the Gleason's map, even though it wasn't originally intended for studying astronomy, do you think that it could be used for other purposes other than what it was intended? That's my first question.
All right, go ahead.
Certainly, I think that people could find other uses for an azimuthal equidistant map. It is very useful for knowing how far you are from any one point. So if you were to center the azimuthal equidistant map on your current location, then you could see how far it would be to fly to any other location, for example. That would be really nice. So that would be good. Now, the specific AE map that is the Gleason map centered on the North Pole would only be useful if you're currently sitting on the North Pole for that particular purpose, which is rare. People do it, but it's rare. But yeah, there could be other purposes to that map, but I don't know how using a projection, which has uses, I don't know how that has any bearing on what the actual shape is of the Earth.
All right, go ahead, Nigel, for your second question.
You also said that longitude and latitude is only used on a globe projection, if I'm correct. And my question is, well, my question is kind of just asking then what are the lines on the Gleason's map? Are those not longitude and latitude lines?
Yeah, they are longitude and latitude lines. And the Gleason map doesn't have, it has a legend that specifically addresses the latitude, the distance between the lines of latitude, and says it's 60 nautical miles between each 1 degree latitude. It doesn't specifically address the distances between the lines of longitude. But there are some other similar maps that include that. So there's a 1945 air map of the world that has in the legend, it has a legend for the distances between the lines of longitude. And it matches the globe because at 0 degrees north, 90 degrees north, the North Pole, it's 0. And then it's a sine cosine function down to the equator. And then because the map is splayed out like that in a projection, they continue to get wider, but the actual distances between them actually gets shorter. So 45 degrees north and 45 degrees south, the distance between the lines of longitude are the same, north and south of the equator. And the other maps that use the same projection indicate that. Gleason left that off. Don't know why. It wasn't, according to his stated purpose of the map, it wasn't important to the purpose, and that would probably be why he didn't include it.
We're going to go ahead, Nigel, for your last question.
All right. My last question. Well, the thing is that there's some things. I mean, that was a very good explanation. And I love maps. Like I said, I've navigated with maps, and there always is a legend, even if it's just, there's legend saying, okay, how many degrees to magnetic north to adjust and whatnot. But so I have a couple other questions, but I guess I'll just pick one. Do you think that larger mass attracts smaller mass?
Yeah, mass attracts mass. That's been confirmed on large scales and small scales. There are a few. If anybody's interested, I have a listing of 16 different experiments measuring the strength of the mass-to-mass attraction on my website at mctune.net/G, G for gravity. It's been scientifically confirmed, and you can test it yourself if you want to make. There's a couple ways to do it. The most famous is a torsion bar experiment. We have a very fine wire holding up a bar. You put two masses on the bar, and you let it settle, and then you introduce two larger masses. They don't have to be larger, but two masses next to it to see if that bar pulls closer to the masses, and you wait for it to equalize and then measure to see if it's closer. That confirms that there's a mass attraction, assuming that you also control for other variables like static attraction and air movement and magnetism, things like that. All things that are easy to control for.
All right, guys, so now we're going to allow Mctune to ask some questions to Nigel. Thank you guys for loading your questions already. Just as a last warning, we're about to get to that part where we take questions from you, the audience, on Echo Chamber. The super chats are as free as speech should be, so make sure you get your questions in, and we'll ask. We're going to try to keep it as even as possible, but obviously we can't predict what people ask, so we will get your questions in. At this point, Mctune can now ask Nigel up to 3 questions. Nigel has up to 2 minutes to respond to each. So MC, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead for your first question.
All right, Nigel, what piece of evidence convinced you that the Earth was flat?
Well, the thing is that I'm not saying. See, my argument is that the flat Earth has a use, has purpose in projections. That's really my flat Earth argument that I've been trying to say. But
do you not actually think
me?
The Earth is flat?
I mean, I'm not. No, I don't know what shape the Earth is.
Okay, are you in the wrong place?
My flat Earth argument is that the flat Earth model has use, and that's what I've been saying since the beginning.
But you don't actually think it's flat?
That there's purpose. I don't think it's flat, and I don't think it's round. I don't know what the Earth is. I don't know. What is the Earth? What I see in my daily life is what I see. But I also do not think I think there is reason why people are skeptical of NASA and of these highfalutin mathematical explanations, because it's theory. A lot of it is theory and just mathematical. And then what isn't is pictures from NASA, which are CGI and doctored images. So I'm in defense of the skepticism of the flat Earth, and I'm in defense of the flat Earth as a model.
All right, go ahead, MC, for your next question.
All right. Well, I don't know if it matters because it seems you don't think the Earth is flat. But what would convince you that the Earth is spherical?
Honestly, what would convince me the Earth is spherical is if I got shot up in a rocket and I got to see the Earth as a ball. I think that's how many people are, is that they believe what they see, and they do not always defer truth to what other people say it is.
All right, for your final question, MC.
All right. Well, then, so one of the big flat earther contentions is that southern hemisphere flights don't exist or are different than are suggested. So, and a flight from Sydney, Australia to Santiago, Chile, direct flight would be impossible on any azimuthal equidistant on the Gleason map style. So would you give it a free flight? Would you accept that to see whether or not the AE map works or fails?
Now, before you answer, you may have to wear a mask on this flight. But go ahead and answer your question.
They're not starting them up.
Are you talking
after.
about? Now you're saying from Australia to Good Hope.
Chile.
I didn't quite catch that. Chile. Okay,
Yeah.
so I mean, I'll take a free flight. I don't know if I'd want it if I have any other reason to. But from what I understand, the arguments that I've heard, and from what I understand, I don't know if how true it is, but flights over the Antarctic, they don't allow flights over the South Pole, from what I understand.
All right, well, thank you very much, both of you. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Now we get into my favorite part of Echo Chamber, where we take your questions from the audience. So, guys, on Echo Chamber Podcast, the super chats are as free as speech should be, and we always support your decision to break through the Echo Chamber of mainstream media and for submitting your questions. So, I'm going to try to do my job to keep it as even as possible. Obviously, if we only get questions for one side, that's kind of just the way that it is. But if you guys enjoyed this debate, make sure to follow, whether you're on Bitwave, whether you're on Facebook, or whether you're on DLive.tv/Echo Chamber Podcast for another debate every Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this question comes from our Facebook. It's for MC. MC, what piece of evidence would be required for you to accept the flat Earth theory?
I would love to see some measurements, because there are measurements of the shape of the Earth that confirm it's spherical. So measurements of flatness, for example, would be a good thing. So a deviation from a straight line would be a measurement of flatness, and a deviation of zero with a margin of error where the margin of error places it within zero would be awesome. Also, measurements of stationariness. It's a word I've made up there. Take a fiber optic gyro, an optical gyroscope of any sort that measures rotation, set it still on the face of the Earth and watch it and see if it measures no rotation, or if it does measure 15 degrees per hour like Bob Nodell measured. Those would be great.
All right, thank you very much. Now, this one question is for you, Nigel.
Go
ahead.
Could I just add something to that?
No, I hate that. I had to be the bad guy, but no, that's just not the form. This is the next question here. Next question is for you, Nigel. Do you believe in asteroids? Do asteroids exist?
Do I believe in asteroids? I mean, I don't know. I mean, sure, maybe they exist as something floating around in space, or I don't. Yeah, I've never seen an asteroid, but it would be nice if there were asteroids, because then we could mine them for gold. But other than that, I wouldn't say I believe. A matter of belief, I wouldn't say I do.
Okay, no problem. Hey, thank you very much. Now, this question comes for you as well. Is the Earth, Nigel, the Earth is flat? I'm just going to read the question verbatim. If there's a dome, I mean, and I know this person, Brandon Monroe, again on my show. Please speak in English, so when I read your comment live, it makes sense, and I don't have to like decipher what you're asking. I love you, buddy. If there's a dome, period, can we break it? And if so, what happens? So, is there a dome over the Earth? And if so, can that dome be broken?
Well, I don't know if there's a dome. I've never, but okay. So if there's the question is if there's a dome. If there's a dome, can it be broken? Possibly. I mean, leaving the stratosphere. I mean, the stratosphere is a thing, and that could be considered a dome type thing, right?
Okay.
I don't know.
Now, this question is for MC. So, MC, this comes again from the Facebook audience. This is from Harrison Kemp. Boats that have allegedly passed the curve and should not be visible can be seen with a high-power camera once zoomed in on. Bullshit or not bullshit? Go ahead.
I've never seen that. I've seen the claim many times, but I've never actually seen somebody produce a photo or video of a boat that has gone over and then they zoom in more and it comes back. I've always seen pictures of boats where part of the hull is obscured and then you zoom in more and the same amount of the hull is obscured. So should somebody produce that actual evidence instead of just the unsubstantiated claim, I would love to have a look at it. But until somebody actually produces it and doesn't just allegedly claim it, what can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
All right, thank you very much, MC. So this question comes from our D-Live audience. Guys, thank you so much for watching, not only on Facebook, but also on D-Live. We have some interesting things about a network we're joining, but do stay tuned on our D-Live audience. Questions for you, Nigel. So other than a general distrust of concentrated power, what actions by NASA have sparked your skepticism?
Okay, that's a good one because I guess this would go in line of sort of Mctune's earlier question of what convinced me, which nothing's really convinced me, but NASA has a number of videos showing have videos of them in their spacecraft or airplane or whatever, where they're pointing the camera to the Earth around the circular window, and it looks like the Earth's round, and they pull away, and it's just a bunch of guys flying over the Earth in the airplane. So take that for what you will. That raises skepticism. There's other than the CGI and the photo doctoring pictures, there's also that has raised skepticism. As I said, the NASA thing is a appeal to authority, and appeals to authority generally are pretty weak because you're resting everything on someone else.
Now, this question, we're going to go back to MC Tool from our Facebook. Tune, sorry. I have a weird font, and I'm sorry. That is not respectful. You are not a tool. You are a man of God. Okay. This question is for you, MC. This has come from Jordan Sweet. He's asking you if you're having a good time, and how is your night going?
Yes, Jordan, I am having a good time. Thank you. I was going to go clubbing, but they're all closed. So.
Okay. Now, this one's back for Nigel. So, Nigel, what do you think of the International Space Station? Do you think that that exists? Or what's your take on the idea that we have an International Space Station sort of rotating around the Earth?
Well, you can have in a snow globe, in the flat Earth model, it could be low Earth orbit. It could be just skimming on the firmament. Who knows? It could just be a massive airplane that's just in very, very high up in the atmosphere with low density, just floating along that people go to. But I feel like there's some of the questions for Mr. Toon that I'd like to address or give my perspective on.
No, I totally understand that. We just have a format here. You know, I've got to stick with. We do have to leave soon. But this is a question for MC, and this was direct messaged. So, those of you guys who are on my Facebook, I appreciate that. MC, if you believe, and I'm paraphrasing because, again, this person screwed up the spelling, but MC, if you believe that flat Earth theory is not correct, are you doing something unethical by debating them to spread that belief system?
That is a great question. And among the other flat Earth debunkers, we talk about that at times. And most of us come to the same idea that left alone, bad ideas in echo chambers, as is the name of this podcast, tend to fester and they grow, and there's no challenge to them, so they get big. And when they're confronted with evidence and challenged, and in a public way, other people can see whether or not and judge for themselves whether or not there's legitimacy behind it. So as I do debates every week, I debate flat earthers, and they bring up nothing. No evidence, just as Nigel did here. He didn't bring any evidence at all. And I bring evidence every time I bring something. I try to bring something new every week, in fact. And today I put a good deal into this particular presentation. I'll just have to reuse it because Nigel just kind of ignored it. But I think I've developed over time this large collection of evidence on my website that anybody can look at. And it ranges from NASA and governments doing things to individuals doing things, myself doing things, flat earthers doing things that show that the Earth is not flat. So I think what I'm doing is countering it in a very fruitful way to bring it down and stop its growth.
Thank you. And this one's for you, Nigel. Now, I'm going to be sensitive to the way that we ask this. In terms of questions, we definitely want to be respectful. And I think it's very easy for people to talk about debating, but to actually go out in public and debate your ideas, is something that, I respect very much and I appreciate. So I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to come on here. This question is from Charles Welch from Facebook. He's asking, was there something traumatic going on that led you to believe in the flat Earth theory? Do you think that most people that you know in that community, is there a personal event that's happening that leads them into that? Or do you find that that's unrelated?
I think, okay, so I'm not a flat earther per se that I believe the flat earth, the earth is flat or the earth is round. I am just quite simply saying that the flat earth model is not illegitimate. It is a model that can be used for things, and a lot of the same things we observe can be explained both on a flat Earth model and a round Earth model.
Okay,
a lot of things can.
And I want to
now, as far as a traumatic experience, I wouldn't say a traumatic experience in so much as just a general skepticism that a lot of people have of what they're being told in school, and a skepticism of what we're being told by the authorities. So I don't know if that's supposed to be a psychoanalytical question.
Sure.
Did your daddy beat a dog in front of you when you were a kid and you became a flat earther? That's just nonsense.
Sure. And I'm kind of going to go break the third wall here because I'm genuinely curious, because you mentioned that the argument is essentially a moral argument, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is what you're saying, Nigel, that we have, whether or not the Earth is flat, believing that the Earth is flat may have societal benefit and therefore should be utilized. So the actual objective validity to the idea of flat Earth isn't what's relevant to you. What's relevant is some sort of deeper, more spiritual meaning or reality that can be gained by that knowledge. And I'm not pinning this on you. I'm going to allow you to differentiate yourself. But a lot of people who I interact with who are flat Earth tend to be Christians. And they say that, their faith in the Bible, that they view the world through their faith, So whether or not the Earth is flat, scientifically, it gives them access to a deeper spiritual reality that enriches their lives. Is that kind of what you're saying, or is that a mischaracterization of your position?
No, that is great. I'm glad you're articulating that and bringing that up, because that's really where I'm coming from. Because even if uh, even if you believed, even if you think the Earth is round,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's healthy. It's a healthy exercise to imagine. Okay, if the flat Earth were true and we were on this dinner plate in a snow globe, where does that lead the thinking? I think it's a good, healthy exercise, and like you said, there is you can get some spiritual benefit from that. I think, and that's my argument, is that kind of like the myths of the Greeks, the ancient Greeks. They knew those myths were myths, right?
Mm-hmm.
They knew it wasn't real, that there were like just guys on clouds throwing lightning bolts or whatever. They understood that it was a myth. But from those myths, they were able to gain some wisdom or gain some knowledge about life and the human condition, right? So that's kind of the view I'm taking. That's the view I look at it, the lens I look at it through.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Christianity, I was raised Roman Catholic.
Okay.
I had a lot of problems with the Roman Catholic Church. I still do have a lot of problems with even the theology of the church. I don't look at the Bible and say, okay, it says that the earth is flat with a firmament, so that must be true. No, I question it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I question authority and the, you know, but
Okay.
I do think that there is a place for that spiritual growth
Okay.
if you look at things through flat earth or through the Christian ethos.
Okay. No, MC, I'm going to give you up to 4 minutes because I appreciate you that perspective, Nigel. 'Cause I think that's helpful. I'm going to give MC up to 4 minutes. I'm going to take the liberty of asking you that question. So, what do you make of that claim? The idea that in your day-to-day life, the scientific objectivity is second to something that enriches you spiritually. So there may be people who are saying, I'm not so concerned about a lot of these facts and figures. It doesn't affect my life. What affects my life is maybe the peace that faith gives to me or something to that effect. And isn't that more important? So, aren't you, I'm playing devil's advocate, but they're gaining some sort of spiritual benefit by, what do you make of that argument when someone brings that up to you?
That they're gaining a spiritual benefit by thinking the earth is flat. Well, in general, spirituality, regardless of religion, tends to favor truthfulness above other things, right? It tends to be one of the highest aspects of almost every religion. So if you're getting spiritual benefits out of something that's trivially untrue, I have a problem with that, and I think anybody from any faith system should have a problem with that. It's a lie to think that the earth is flat, but it's okay because it gives you spiritual benefits. No, I reject that completely. But is religion? Can religion give you whatever? Peace or something? Yeah, sure. It can, but that's separate. This is the shape of the earth is about science, it's the physical realm. Spirituality is about the non-physical realm. So they interact, but they're kind of separate for the most part. So if somebody thinks the earth is flat and that gets them closer to God, I'm sorry. A lie gets you closer to God is a problem for me.
Okay. Well, Nigel, you did something that's very hard to do. It's very hard for me to find people who believe the flat Earth theory, to find the bravery to go out in public and to find somebody to debate. So that's a lot of respect in my book. I feel like I learned a lot. So I appreciate you coming on the show, Nigel.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me on and giving me a chance. There's many more things I would like to say and add, but I
Well,
appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll tell you what, and this isn't me even with hyperbole. We do a debate, and I try to have different topics. But this flat Earth subject has so much attention that if I can have somebody else on, I mean, I'd love to invite you on the show next time, maybe to say some other things in your opening statements. Would you be interested in that?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, I know we're friends on Facebook, so I can definitely make that happen. So thank you very much. And MC, you have great debates. I hope this was one of them. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence here, guys. I have the links for his YouTube, Mctune, and the Discord channel. MC, thanks for taking the time. Hope you had a good time.
Yeah, thanks. It was good. Thank you, Nigel. It was a very pleasant interchange with you.
Well, thank you for watching. Nigel seemed a little confused at one point. He wasn't certain that he was in the right debate, it seemed. I don't know what he was doing. He was kind of confused. But thanks for watching. Thank you to the Echo Chamber podcast for hosting. Be sure to stick around. In a little bit, I've got hopefully Scotty Storm or another show. And if you're watching this later, go find another one of my videos to enjoy. Here comes the outro roll.